I know I've been talking about Bill O'Reilly a lot, and there is something about Bill O'Reilly. He's not the worst objectively of these guys. Many people say,
Michael and I have actually discussed before that we actually think that he's probably the one guy on Fox News who, if you put his like right-wing ideology aside, like if he was just a broadcaster, he'd be the only one on Fox News to have a job.
he's a very talented broadcaster. I mean, actually, I remember, Alec Baldwin actually said that, I don't remember, I think on Howard Stern or something. Alec Baldwin made this joke where he basically said, he goes, look, I disagree with everything O'Reilly says, but he's a great broadcaster. And Sean Hannity is like a gym coach from Long Island that somebody just gave a TV show to.
Oh yeah, you strip away Sean Hannity's conservative beliefs,
right.
You got nothing.
You got nothing. And you got and all of these guys, Glenn Beck, obviously, Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, they all say things worse than Bill O'Reilly, which makes when Bill O'Reilly's constant racial nonsense. It makes it when he talks about Dr. Tiller and he calls him Tiller the killer, this type of thing. It makes it more noxious, I think, because A, he's a very talented broadcaster, and because B, I have usually perceived in some ways a little bit more cynicism around Bill O'Reilly. Now, obviously, I don't know what's inside Bill O'Reilly's head. I can only judge him by the kind of cross of inadvertently hilarious, ludicrous, stupid, and, occasionally profoundly, genuinely offensive and functionally racist things he says. But, barring that, I don't know what goes on inside his head. But there was a new piece of sound that happened a couple days ago.
Would the best way to describe this be, we don't know what's going on in Bill O'Reilly's head, so let's take a look into Bill O'Reilly's heart?
I don't even know if this is a glimpse into Bill O'Reilly's heart, but this is the first glimpse into Bill O'Reilly where I don't know. I don't know what's going on with the guy. I hope he's taking his ginkgo. All right? So Bill O'Reilly had on John Calipari, who I should just say, I know a lot of people don't like John Calipari. I
honestly don't have a clue who
I
he
grew
is.
up, well, I'm a big basketball fan, but I grew up rooting for UMass. And when I was, 11, 12, whatever, they were really good. He coached UMass. I still have this soft spot for him. And he has a new book out on how he coaches, and, it's some sports book. He just took Kentucky to the finals. They played an incredible tournament. Whatever else you think of the guy, he's a lot of talent as a basketball coach. And the other thing about John Calipari is he's done this thing where he spent a lot of his time actually working with young black men. And that means that he doesn't have just kind of utterly ludicrous ideas about them. And let's listen to this interview of Bill O'Reilly asking John Calipari what it's like to coach young black guys.
And hanging with you for a year. I mean, you're a good guy, Coach, but hey. Now, culture has coarsened. You teach at a public school, University of Kentucky, but it's coarsened. I mean, I don't know whether you listen to this rap stuff and the hip-hop stuff. Has that changed their attitude? I mean, how do you impose discipline?
Okay, first of all, I mean, I thought we had this conversation about rap before we were in puberty. I mean, really? You look at the world today and you're still at rap music? And number two, if you ever read any smart theorist like Trish Rose, I think her name is, or anybody who writes about rap music, and you want to have a criticism of some of the problems in rap music, you go after the capitalist imperatives of the record labels. I don't think we'll be hearing Bill O'Reilly doing that anytime soon. All right, go ahead.
On kids who are pretty much going to do what they want to do.
Well, they trust. You got to have trust first that, that they look at me and say, he's about me. That's what this book is about. They know that I'm about them, and the decisions I make are in their interest, not my own, which is why I have a lot of kids leaving. I'm not influencing them to stay. I'll tell them I want to keep coaching you, but I'm not going to hold you back. That's a big part of this. Do they trust you enough? Do they look at you and say, he's going to do right by me? If I tell a kid to stay, you know the people around them are going to say, He's just trying to win more games. I've got to let them make their decisions.
But do they act differently toward you? I mean, do they use four-letter words toward you?
No,
and
no.
None of that. So you impose strict discipline on them?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay, all right, poise it
here's
again.
what I would.
Just to be really clear, John Calipari just talked about a coaching philosophy where he puts responsibility in his players' hands and tries to make clear that he's an ally of them in their careers. Bill O'Reilly took all that in and asked, hey, do your players go, yo, motherfucker, Coach Cal, what's up? That's basically what O'Reilly just said. And then if you hear Calipari, he's very polite. But before that, when the first part of his answer is, no. Okay, let's keep playing this.
Tell you, these kids come from good homes. You know, people will say, well, he doesn't have a father. Some of the best kids I coached were raised by a grandmother who was so firm that they understood.
So you evaluate their character before you give them the scholarships.
Pause it again. That's actually a really profound point that Calipari just made. You know, going back to the Moynihan report, actually, which someone mentioned on the phone a couple weeks ago, this demonization, and first of all, now obviously that there are more, white families have similar divorce rates, and there's different types of familial arrangements that more closely track in terms of the numbers of the African American community. Now, of course, all these things aren't the same type of moral and social crisis that they were when people were just lecturing the black community. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But number two, Calipari is actually doing something really interesting there and really radical in a way. I don't think that's how he intends it. I think it's just his experience. But he's saying, like, look, obviously no one wants to grow up not knowing who one of their parents are, okay? And of course that's a tragedy. But this notion that a single mother or even single grandparent household cannot impose a good lifestyle on a kid and help them focus and help them to succeed is rooted in so much, misogyny, delusion, and also, frankly, just bad social science, that it's mind-blowing. And to hear Calipari go to that before O'Reilly even goes there and set it straight is great. All right, I just wanted to say it. Go ahead.
Walk in a home and a young man disrespects his mother or grandmother in front of me, I'm out. Because if that's the case, he respects no one. He's not going to respect me.
Okay, how do you keep them away from temptation with the hustlers everywhere? So they go out with
Pause
a
again.
girl.
I just have to say, he goes, like the hustlers everywhere. And Calipari goes, who? Go ahead.
And the girl's going to say, hey, you raped me. There's drugs everywhere. You're giving the kids the drugs for free, all right?
All right,
How
I'm
do you
sorry,
keep
pause
them
it
away
again.
from-
I'm sorry, pause it again. This is how literally mind-breaking this, and I say this consciously. I'm trying to coin a new phrase. I felt my mind was broken by this clip. So he's sliding. Now he's saying, well, what about when your kid, because if you wanted to be the most sympathetic, sure, there's temptation available to college athletes, okay? That's not a surprise. But he's saying, like, well, what are you going to do with these kids when, they go and there are these hustlers around, which he does not specifying. Like, maybe he could say, what are you going to do when a sports agent is trying to give them a bribe? Or how do you handle their normal college interests and things like partying, which have the potential to be bigger because they're stars? So he says hustlers. So he uses this unnecessary, stupid racial term. And then he goes, and then girls who say are going to accuse them of rapes that they didn't commit. So at the first moment where he gives these kids the benefit of the doubt after racially imputing them for 2 minutes in the face of everything John Calipari is saying about how good they are, finally he's like, and also let's be fair too. Sometimes these kids are probably going to get accused of a rape they didn't commit. Am I right?
It's amazing how in his racism he was even able to sneak in some sexism and some misogyny.
And we know, I'm sure Bill O'Reilly doesn't know that, of course, there's a rape crisis on college campuses, and rape has actually been one of the defining problems in both professional and college sports. But that's the one area where he's like, hey, and the kids, they could be accused of rape by some chick. There's a lot, there's the hustlers. All right, keep playing.
One of the things I tell them coming to Kentucky, as you know, if you want to smoke, drink, chase, do all that stuff, they'll do a 30-30 on you. They'll be on the ticker. You'll be on every news show. You can't do that here. You're coming here to be developed as a person and as a player.
How many buy into that?
They all
Because
do.
temptation is strong.
We'll deal with issues as they come up, but they all look at the results. You and I know it's one thing to walk in and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. It's another thing to say, here's what we've done. Here's how they've been developed.
Okay. So that's John Calipari again, and incredibly politely explaining that most of his kids are obviously extraordinarily gifted world-class basketball players and athletes, and also like nice, normal, young guys who want to go to college, who want to have a nice life and develop themselves. And of course, in many cases, because his players are top rate, probably make it into the NBA. And Bill O'Reilly keeps saying, well, yeah, but how does that confirm with the fact that I know all of your players are young black thugs who swear at you and listen to rap music? Like, in Bill O'Reilly's mind, they show up on a bus and they say to Coach Calipari, they go, hey, motherfucker, where's my basketball? When's practice? Because I'm not showing up. Hey, whoa, wait a second. When I was out smoking and drinking and doing drugs and listening to A$AP Rocky, a girl accused me of rape that I didn't commit. So can you help me, Coach? I mean, what the fuck is going on in Bill O'Reilly's head?
To be honest,
who is listening to this?
I'm surprised he hasn't taken that so far as to say, do the yo motherfucker thing for me, by the way.
Yo, motherfucker. Yeah, exactly. Yo, we
motherfucker,
here.
my
Yo,
name's Bill
motherfucker. Yo, motherfucker. Coach Cal, where my scholarship?
Like,
motherfucker.
really? Like,
I mean,
unbelievable.
And we're doing this very much intentionally because we thought that Bill O'Reilly had an experience in 2007 that apparently, even in his mind-bogglingly limited and addled mind, somehow conveyed to him the point that there were African Americans in this country who could do things like go to a basketball practice, go to a concert, or in this specific instance, run a restaurant and serve food without saying, well, listen to Bill O'Reilly explain this.
Right. That's right. There wasn't one person in Sylvia's who was screaming, MFer, I want more iced tea.
Please.
You know, I mean, everybody was, it was like going into an Italian restaurant in an all-white suburb in the sense of people were sitting there and they were ordering and having fun, and there wasn't any kind of craziness at all.
I like how Bill,
I would just like to say right now, as someone
ahead.
who comes from an Italian family, they're fucking crazy. What is he talking about?
Well, I mean, that goes without saying. Of course,
but
Italian people are crazy. No, but but he was. No, because I mean, go ahead. But if you noticed, Bill O'Reilly in that clip is like an Italian restaurant in an all-white suburb. So Bill O'Reilly was like, "Hey, don't come at me with that swarthy Sicilian shit. I don't trust that either. That's how white I am."
No, I know this is all funny, but I think it's really telling that to Bill O'Reilly, a well-behaved black man, woman, child is someone who acts white.
Oh, I mean, you cannot even unpack this is overdetermined by how many racially, economic, social, cultural, historical problems there are in 3-4 minutes of listening to this guy talk. But what I had thought was that the Sylvia's experience had taught him that there were black people who were capable of making it through basic social interactions without his saying, hey, MFer. But apparently Bill O'Reilly has regressed. And even after watching the Kentucky team play, and there be, in the Kentucky team, there are two brothers on the same team. The mother shows up and watches. One of the star players, his mother was actually a player in the women's professional basketball, and she cheers him on for every game. But Bill O'Reilly knows in his heart of hearts that as soon as the cameras are off and as soon as the coaching is happening, which incidentally, every time we have seen private footage of a coach, and not Calipari. No one's ever said this about Calipari. Every time a video leaks of a college basketball coach, it's not a black kid saying, yo, MF, or I'm not going to practice. It's a friggin' lunatic white guy smashing basketballs in some kid's leg, pushing him and punching him, and in Bobby Knight's case, putting his hands around the kid's neck. What about that out of control white behavior, Bill? Jesus Christ.